want you to get up. We want you to dance. We want you to scream. We want you to wreck the house.
Stephen lived for one thing. All he ever wanted to do was be on stage.
I wanted to tell everybody, that's my brother.
On stage was when he came into his own.
He showed you up. He made you look like a fool. No matter how many rehearsals we've had, how many dance routines we learned, he's always that one bit extra.
His energy's amazing. He gives 120% every night, and we love him. He's that little bunny.
Stephen was the Mark Owen, I suppose, of Boyzone.
Just a big, lively, bubbly character on stage.
I've never met anybody that loved to sing, dance and perform like he did.
We both used to talk about what it was like when you finally got on that stage and that feeling of the crowd towards you and how you'd sometimes close your eyes and think you were in a different world.
He used to say to me, Michelle, I have to give every single one of those gigs my all.
His body language would change, his eyes would brighten. It was absolutely amazing to see Stephen up there and know that was my husband.
He was home when he was on stage. He was at home, he loved it.
And there's a certain ache in great pop music. It's that bittersweetness that makes great pop music. And I think some of that ache came in Stephen's falsetto, the kind of light voice.
Here was a guy who was doing really, really well and was absolutely determined to be a real great performer and a great star, and he was.
I remember going to any of the gigs that the lads did, and oh my God, Stephen knew exactly where the family would be sitting.
Whenever he managed to find us, he would give us such a big wave and smile.
Oh, my mother was in tears. We just could not believe the amount of people, the amount of fans, the amount of cheering.
He lit up the stage.
He loved it. He lived for that moment.
Stephen was absolutely amazed by the West End shows. So when the opportunity came for Stephen to do them, he was like, yes.
He auditioned for Andrew Lloyd Webber for Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. He got the job, and he had a whole new lease of life.
Stephen, as a performer, was electrifying because he gave so much. He was really a serious performer. He worked hard at it.
I remember when Stephen went into Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, he was very serious about the part, talking about it. And, you'd say to him, how's it going? Oh, I'm having a ball. Never said, oh, I've got another matinee today, and shuffled in. He genuinely, he was enjoying himself. He enjoyed his work.
Please welcome onto the ice, Stephen Gately and Christina Lenko.
I made him do dance on ice.
Stephen was always enthusiastic, but he used to do a lot of talking and not a lot of skating.
I think Stephen would be the first to admit that he wasn't the best on the ice.
I'd be waiting for him just to fall over, and he would ring me beforehand and he'd be so nervous, and he would say, Michelle, oh my God, I don't believe I have to do this, I don't believe I have to do it. But he did it.
It's been an absolute amazing experience. The rest of these guys up there are amazing.
After he was voted out, Stephen came back almost every week to give support, because he kept saying, well, I miss everybody, I've made so many friends, which was great.
Outside of the confines of the group, he was very confident. So that's why he went off and he did all these different things and really liked to test himself.
He would give 110% in every performance. He just gave it and enjoyed it, and I think that is what endeared him to so many people.
Stephen never wanted to be off stage. He always wanted to be on stage.
If anyone can be completely happy, I think it was probably whilst he was performing. That was his enlightenment,
Welcome back to the show. We're Boyzone, or as Stephen called us, Michaela, Kitty, Shanice and Rosaline. We're here to celebrate the life of our dear friend Steo, or as we used to call him, Stephanie. His life was far too short, but packed full of joy and laughter, often at my expense. Since we were teenagers, we had the pleasure and privilege of performing alongside Steo. He was my wingman on stage and in the studio, but there was so much more to Steo than the man standing in the spotlight.
Stephen came to me one day and he said, Michelle, I've something I've got to tell you. I think he was about 15. And I said, okay. So I took him along and we went for a drink. And he said, I'm gay, Michelle. And I said, Stephen, I know. And he was delighted.
The last thing I ever thought is he was gay.
Stephen was tortured until he came out. Nobody really cared, but it was a problem to him. Eventually the Sun were going to do a story about it.
At the time, no boy bander in the world had ever come out. It was unprecedented territory.
It's hard for anybody to come out. All the odds are stacked against you there, and I thought he handled it very well.
It must have taken a lot of courage because, you know, he didn't know how the fans were going to react, and of course they reacted brilliantly.
He stayed with myself and my husband for 3 weeks, didn't watch the news, didn't read the papers. There was a war going on at the time, and the headlines were about Stephen.
He made a lot of guys feel good about themselves. If he can do that, I can.
It's easy to say it's an easy thing to do. Of course it's not. But he did it. Did it help others? Of course it did. Were those moves all part of a more inclusive, tolerant society? Of course it was. Did Stephen Gately add to that in 1999? Yes, he did.
I suppose when Stephen and Andy got together, you know, they knew they were going to get married at some point, you know. They were just right. They were just right for each other, you know. They loved each other.
We were so in love from day one, and after only 6 months, we'd been spending 3 months saying marry me to each other. And we ran away to Vegas, and we went to one of those little chapels of love. We had a somewhat spur-of-the-moment wedding. The next morning we got a call from Stephen's agent telling us that it was all over the papers.
I think Andrew was the final piece of the jigsaw in Stephen's life. Now he had somebody he loved, he wanted to spend his life with. He was happy.
He had this wonderful, loving heart, and life hadn't always been easy on him, so he'd been a bit bruised.
Stephen was very conscious of where he came from and was prepared whenever the opportunity arose to give time, to give effort, to help things, to help young people, and he did so.
When I had just moved, you know, to London, to a big city, and he recognised that, and he was there to make me know it's going to be okay. You know, I'm here, it's going to be okay.
He was just amazing, you know, he was brilliant. He looked after everybody. He was always nice to everybody. He was a lovely, lovely, lovely person.
Steo grew up in the heart of working-class Dublin, and he became an inspiration to people all over the world, not least our next guests. They're Irish lads and they're good friends of ours who've taken the world by storm, not to mention the record books.
We've got a real treat for you now. For the first time ever on one stage, forming the biggest boy band in history. We were going to call it West Zone.
Then we thought maybe Boys Life.
But then we thought, let's just get on with it. Joining us on No Matter What, it's Nicky, Cian, Mark and Shane, better known as Westlife.